So we're in this window where negotiations, according to the White House, are happening, but there's also movement. You see Isfahan, this huge fiery ball in the sky here, sending a message to Iran. Jonathan, I'll start with you. Pick up on some of the notes from Pete Hegseth today and the messaging, and also the other options. We really haven't heard about what they're planning to do if these fall apart. We know Karg Island is another option that remains on the table. So many things still in flux.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing right now is Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump keeping every one of their options open. I think this maximum flexibility has really been the signature of the U.S. operation that's been ongoing in Iran for the last month now. We can double down on troops. We can put more troops in theater. We can take Karg Island. We can start clearing around the Strait of Hormuz. We can engage in more serious negotiations if the Islamic Republic is ready. We can take out more of their leaders. I think that actually Secretary Hegseth's messaging has been exactly right on this. In the past, U.S. presidents have signaled exactly what our policies were going to be. We tipped our hand to the enemy. That is not what's happening right now with the Islamic Republic. They have said so themselves, that they are very frustrated with the very asymmetric negotiating style of this administration. I think it's playing well with a regime that has typically fleeced the United States in previous negotiations. So I like the pressure that we're seeing.
Well, we certainly hope it ends with a diplomatic solution. Senator Santorum, King's coming for a visit here, but the UK is definitely in focus. A lot of strain here. Hegseth said Britain and other allies need to step up and open the Strait of Hormuz. There's talk from President Trump saying, you know, go get it, buy our oil, or go work on it yourself. And then you have Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying, why are we defending all our NATO allies? And you've got airspace closed. France, Italy, Spain saying, you know, you can't use our airspace. It does seem like NATO allies are not as on board as they could be with their messaging, Senator.
Well, it's not their messaging. It's what I think in many cases their own political survival. The UK, France, a couple other countries you mentioned there have large Muslim populations, and they're concerned about their own safety and security if they get involved in this type of war. So here you see where immigration, I mean, so much of what is happening today in America centers around immigration and the world. You know, fortunately for us, we have Mexico on our southern border. They have the Muslim world on their southern border, and it has invaded their countries, and it is now affecting their foreign policy. They're all for going after Russia. I support them in that regard, 100%. But when even a more existential threat, which was, you know, in my opinion, which is Iran, because I think they're much more willing to be offensive with their weapons against other countries, as we've seen. They're timid, and they're timid because of their own internal politics.
Yeah, and speaking of politics, let's talk about some of our adversaries, Jonathan. 3 Chinese vessels recently passed through the Strait of Hormuz through coordination, as they say, with relevant parties. So probably paying the Tehran toll booth here. We don't know, but I mean, they got through. And you have China and Pakistan today coming out saying they are going to promote 5 points aimed at ending the war. That seems interesting, seeing that Pakistan is also potentially the site of diplomatic talks of Islamabad. When you look at all this and you look at the focus of this administration and President Trump sort of with his diplomatic dance also heading to China in a few weeks, this comes into a very interesting needle to thread here. China's getting through, talks are happening, and we don't really know exactly what Iran's endgame is here with the Strait of Hormuz, because they're letting some people through, but it's all about the money, clearly, and the only leverage they have still.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, the China angle of this, I think, has just cast a shadow over the entire war. I think a lot of people think this is only about the Middle East. I think it's a lot bigger than that. I do see that great power competition is creeping into this. It's a big part of the picture. And let me just note here that the surrounding Gulf Arab states, these countries that have been getting hit by the Islamic Republic with drones and missiles and rockets over the last month, they are not blind. They see what the Chinese government is doing. They see how they're working with the Islamic Republic. They see how they're providing drone motors and some of the chemical precursors needed for missiles, some of the intelligence that the Islamic Republic is using, not to mention getting that free pass in the Strait of Hormuz. They are not going to be pleased with China when this is all said and done. And I do think that when we look at that kind of that balance, that great power competition question, I do think this is advantage United States, advantage Donald Trump. These countries are not going to forget what China's done here.